Sajal. I'm a partner with Tata Sweden. I also work with the United Nations on their innovation programs, and also sit at the board of a couple of business schools. And in my free time, I play a little bit of drums and also incidentally write for Forbes on digital strategy. Now, I want to start with a question. How many of you have heard about Mural? And maybe you can just thumbs up or say yes or no or whatever. Okay. So, wow, no one has heard about it. Okay, great. So if you go on Google and you type Mural, Mural, this is a digital collaboration software. Sorry, yeah, my pronunciation. Okay, my bad. So it's a digital collaboration software which has recently gained a lot of prominence in the post-COVID world, right? We are not able to go to our offices and work together on various collaboration projects. And so what it is allowing a lot of companies to do is to get together remotely and problem solve using Mural. You can do a lot of design thinking, product development projects. You can do a lot of prioritization, and you can set it up the way you want. Now, they have come up with, they've recently, in fact, yesterday, they have raised about $118 million in Series B funding. And that is in the middle of COVID, right? And it's a very small company. And they have now started something called as Mural Consultant Network. And that consultant network is basically an offering that Mural has for all these consulting firms that provide consulting services, because all these consulting firms cannot co-locate and work with their clients anymore, right? Now, what that has done is that it has allowed their consultant network to swell to about 50 or 60 different consulting companies. And if you think about it, Mural is now sitting on a network of 60, 70 consulting firms who spend so much on their marketing budget to get the word out about them. But now Mural, if they want, they can turn on a switch and tomorrow have a business model around this where they help subsidize the marketing costs of all these consulting firms, right? So in one switch of a button, you simply go to Mural, you access the kind of consulting service you want, and you can pick from all the consultant networks who are signed up. And there you go. You don't really have to pay for any consulting fees. Now, that is the stage where they are at. Now, why did I mention that? Now, why can't these new propositions happen in the space of 3 or 4 weeks in any of the large companies? Right? That is the question that I have been really fascinated with. Why are larger organizations struggling in digital transformation, right? And 7 out of 10, you are part of big and small companies. You'll find a lot of inertia and fatigue when it comes to pushing through any digital transformation in any company, right? And I have been thinking about that question. And that is the subject of my talk today. And I'm going to give you about 5 or 6 different ways of thinking about why this is happening. But I want to start with a certain context. The answer to the question that I asked is very simple. The more you use Venmo in the US, the more you use Paytm in India, Alipay in China, Vips in Norway, Swish, exactly, Miro is a competitor to Mural. Swish in Sweden, the more you use these digital apps, the more you as a consumer are slowly coming to expect similar experiences. And it's not something that you're demanding, but as consumers who are digitally consuming most products and services, the more we use these services, the more we expect other companies to cater to their services in a digital way, right? Or in a physical digital way, right? And the more you shop online, the more you expect, for example, traditional retailers to sort of step up their experience that they provide. That's why you are on Amazon, Zalando, what have you, right? Alibaba, etc. But what about the employee in you? right? Now, we are the same people who complain about any bad customer service today on Twitter, on Facebook, perhaps on Instagram, and we are very vocal about some of our non-pleasurable experiences of these services. But as soon as some of us or all of us step into our organizations, our DNA completely changes. I mean, think about a PowerPoint that is not working on your laptop or a WebEx that is not working on your laptop. And you have to go to a service desk. The service desk has to help you out with your hardware or software. And then you are able to sort of, either fix it or you have to reschedule the meeting. But you, as an employee, you guys don't demand enough. As much as you demand a Venmo in US or an Alipay in China for a good experience. Somehow, the same digital first consumers who we have grown up to be are not the same digital first consumers within the enterprise. And the argument I have in front of you that I want to persuade you today is that it is the DNA of the organization, the culture that does not scale in proportion to any transformation, that results in a lot of transformation going south, or failing, in some cases failing, in some cases not meeting the targets, right? And the reason that I have sort of learned over my experience is very simple and quite subtle. Now, most big organizations put very strong processes in place to run value chains that ensure their business models generate stable, repeatable outcomes, right? And they create value over time. What do I mean by that? Think about a cereal box, a toothbrush. Do you expect a toothbrush from the same company to change from one purchase to another? No. Do you rely that's why you rely on a car, right? When it comes out of an assembly line, is because most companies have invested so much in strong processes that they know that these processes will help these companies give a return on the business model they have invested in, right? And the mistake the companies make is to apply these same stable processes to innovation. And that is what Mural is not doing, right? Mural is not looking at a historical way of operating and trying to apply those learnings into innovation. It is, in fact, looking at consumer behavior, figuring out what is best for them, and quickly changing their operating model to come up with new ideas. And I want to give you 5 or 6 different ways of thinking about sort of breaking down these problems within the organization. Why are these digital transformations not succeeding? And what I will do is I'm going to point my phone and I have a definition, and so you guys will be able to see. And these are very simple definitions. You're welcome to also go to my Forbes article. I have covered it quite in a lot of detail. Now, the first problem of these transformations is something that I call pilot paralysis. And I'm going to show you the definition over here. And I apologize because my PowerPoint is not working, but let me know if you can see the definition. So it's called pilot paralysis. Now, what does that really mean, right? Now, when most companies these days are creating corporate innovation setups, and they invest in a bunch of people who take a certain focus area, and they start doing experiments. Now, it's a very good thing, right? Because it's allowing the company to change its DNA. But in most cases that I have seen, the speed of experimentation exceeds the speed to scale. Because these groups are so focused on generating new ideas that they are not thinking about scaling them. And scaling in a big organization means going through all the business processes, the technology landscape, the channels through which they distribute their products or services, etc. Right? And that is not an easy task, right? So pilot paralysis crowds out all the attention from reality of an organization running in the present, and focuses more on a lot of these pilots. And eventually what you see is some of these programs are shelved, or they are kept small. They are not given a lot of funding. You see this a lot in mostly industrial, supply chain heavy organizations who put some money and then take it out. The next concept that I have is digital mistranslation. Let me know if you can see it, right? And this is very simple. Now, imagine that you want to cut costs across your supply chain, and you have decided that in order to lift your EBITDA, the earnings before interest, taxation, etc., and amortization, or in other words, income, you want to lift your EBITDA by introducing some AI and some automation across your supply chain, right? And so you give these guys uh, this mandate to do that. But what happens is, during the innovation process, people focus more on customer experience, user experience, automation, technology. They focus on verticalized concepts, and they completely lose track of the cost ambition or the revenue ambition of the company, right? They focus too much on these, and we have experts, right? So we have a lot of experts, someone who's an expert in automation, someone is a supply chain geek, and we completely mistranslate the actual ambition that the transformation was sort of set out for, right? So that's the second problem that you will often see, and it sort of percolates, trickles down from the strategic parts of the organization down to the operational parts. I will answer some of these. Sure. Could you? Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, sure. The third one is called lighthouse myopia. Now, most digital transformations actually are governed by a certain group, right? So you give a group a mandate, you give them funding, and then you give them a certain roadmap, or they come up with a roadmap, and then you ask them to run the program. The problem with this group is, these guys, all well-intentioned, run the transformation, but they misunderstand status meetings as evidence of end consumer delight, right? So imagine that you are coming up with a new product, and you are so fascinated with getting into your development cycles, getting the concept right, the testing right, etc., that you are more likely or more prone to not understanding, to not really understanding what is the value that you are actually sort of creating, right? And that myopia also sort of, it's like a looming cloud on you, and you are not able to really push through what exactly you are trying to do. And at the control tower level, this problem is very, very pervasive, because typically these are meetings, right? These are weekly meetings or monthly meetings. People come in, give you status updates, and then they go back. So that's lighthouse myopia. The next one is called momentum erosion. Now, as the name suggests, if you see, the longer you run the transformations, let's say all other problems that I talked about actually are solved, the next time the more you go in time, the longer the transformation runs, the more people have this instinct to go back to their traditional ways of working. And I'm pretty sure all of you can really identify with it, right? You start with a very ambitious product or service, or a transformation, cost transformation, efficiency transformation, and 8 months down the line, you're just doing your own little work, right? You're doing it in the way you are comfortable. I mean, not you, but the team that is responsible, right? And it's very difficult to shake that off people. And this is one of the reasons why most transformations exceed their time horizons, because we all fall back to the ways we sort of like to work on. The final one, the semi-final one, is called toll gate jams. Now, most big organizations, and even the smaller ones, have a toll gated process. And the way I describe toll gates is, it is a language that a company has uh, developed over a period of time to evaluate projects. Now, imagine if you have an interesting project, but there is no evidence for it historically, right? Maybe you are coming up with a new business model versus another project which is thinking about modernization of the infrastructure, or maybe doing a simple channel upgrade to one of your distributions, right? Now, it's quite obvious that new business models will not have any historical benchmark. First, because they are digital. Second, because the last business model pivot that the company made was 10 or 15 years ago, right? So, tollgate jams is all of these digital projects that actually get misevaluated because they are being judged by the language which has been historically set in the organization, right? Think about a blockchain project. How many of you actually think any blockchain project is going to go through? I can tell you from my experience that about it's about 0.5% of the all the blockchain projects that at least I have seen. They just don't go through because the toll gates are not prepared to comprehend what it means, and their NPVs and IRRs don't provide that return, right? So that's the last one. And what I've also tried to do is, I'm doing this research with another university, is that as you see here, the understanding of ambition of a transformation massively erodes over time. And this is a general curve that we have found out with a colleague of mine. But if you look at different sectors, you see all of these definitions that I gave you, they erode the ambition of the transformation and slow them down phenomenally, right? Now, this curve changes for banking. For example, banking has a different curve. It is not as bad as it would look for a manufacturing or a utilities company. So that is how I would like to explain. Now, most importantly, there are two more things that I want to talk about, and then I can answer some of your questions. Scale fallacy. Now, scale fallacy, let me hold it back again so that you guys can see. The bigger companies in any sector, typically assume that they have a dominant position. And if you see the history of digital projects or digital companies in the last 10 years post the iPhone launch, you will see that it is no more about your product. Your product is not being, it's not because your product is, you have nifty features in it. It is because small startups have unbundled the customer journey and provided amazing services for each of those small problems that they are solving across the customer journey. So take a loan, for example, today, right? Now, in a loan, you have the ability to discover who is the right bank to go. So you have loan aggregators, you have the loan credit check companies that provide a different service, right? You have a complete loan aggregator who gives you not just the loan, but he gives you all the other surrounding services around the loan. So you are not just thinking about the loan, but you are thinking, I want to get to an apartment and I want to have my keys. That is the customer journey. It is no more about, I want a loan, I got a loan, right? So that customer journey has now expanded, and it has allowed all these smaller companies to sort of extract share of the overall value from the big firms. And typically the big firms assume that because we have scale, nothing is going to happen to us, right? And that is a very, very big problem. Now, I want to conclude this because I think we will run out of time, and then maybe I will answer a few questions. Now, why is all of this happening? Now, obviously, this is happening because we are working in companies, most of us, if not all, in stable environments. We have a certain DNA, a certain culture that surrounds us. And it is very easy for you to see that it is not about placing a strategy, a digital strategy or an organization strategy to succeed at a transformation, whether it is a business model, new product, service, etc. It is important to scale culture as much as is it important to scale transformation. That's the main message, right? And some of these concepts you can go online and read on my Forbes. I know that this session is also going to be recorded. And I will now take a pause and see if you guys have any questions. That is all I had. I just thought I would share all of these with you. If you want, maybe I can just roll it back and show you very quickly again. So the first one, pilot paralysis. The second one is digital mistranslation. I think, and then later on, I think I was good at time. So lighthouse myopia, that's the third one. And after that, I think people saw everything. Okay, so I cannot hear you guys, but I will take a few questions if there are any. Okay, could you please hold up your phone? Okay, I did that. Okay, how do you overcome pilot paralysis? Okay, how do you overcome pilot paralysis? Well, the very simple thing to do is to keep it very small and not focus on, don't get any specialists in your corporate innovation setup. You should resist the temptation to get any specialists. The idea is you want to succeed at goals. You want to succeed at market share, subscription, install base, revenue. Those should be the goals. And those goals will not be understood by a UX designer, a developer. They are important. Don't get me wrong. They are very important. And they are important in building the concept. But when we are framing the transformation, you have to have the right set of people who identify not just the goal, but also pick out 3 or 4 concepts that they are willing to invest in. And that commitment has to come from the board level. It cannot come from people in the group. So either you have someone who comes from the executive management and sits with you and helps you decide on these things, or the other way is that you have a clear mandate. You know the 4 or 5 things that you need to do. You have a very clear idea of the goals. And so you are focusing on those, bringing the UX and developers and all the other guys later on, right? So maybe they are part of a design thinking session, very good, but keep them out, maintain the sanctity of all the experiments and keep it very small. So that would be my advice. And, we see some good results emerging out of that. Yeah, blockchain. I think blockchain, there is a very simple litmus test that people should do. In blockchain, the only thing you need to do is to ask a very simple question. The first question is, are there any middlemen? If a problem that you are trying to solve via a blockchain, if they involve a middleman, it is compliant for a blockchain. The second thing is, because of the middlemen, are there incentives that are being locked, and are they sort of increasing the cost of transaction? And if the answer is yes, you should go for blockchain. Now, the problem most other companies have is they don't think about the litmus test. They think about blockchain as a technology capability that they will simply bring in and sort of try to then do a blockchain program, put an NPV IRR behind it. And obviously it will fail because NPV looks at historical benchmarks. It does not look at the benefits of having a blockchain. So those are 2 or 3 different ways of thinking about blockchain. I'd be happy to talk more about it later on. If you guys can go to my profile and you will find a link and you can email me. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Any other questions that you guys might have? In companies that's scaling fast, is there any way to build culture or structure that helps in resisting these 5 stops? Yes, thank you for asking that question. That is very easy to do. I won't say it's easy, but it's subtle. It's in a subtle way. What you do is you create a corporate innovation setup or a transformation setup. You keep 5 people who are most important to your transformation. So without them, they fail, right? Without them, your transformation fails. And these are guys who are forward thinking, who don't think about BAU. Around that, you will have 15 more people who will help you out, right? Now, those 15 people have to be rotated every 6 months or 4 months. Now, what that will do is, one, these 15 people will learn something new from the transformation. And when you rotate them, they are going to go to those people who see the transformation as something of a shiny object and try to identify with the transformation, and then you rotate them and bring some new people in. So you keep mixing these 5 or 10 people with 15 new people every 6 months, and you are able to scale the culture in a very methodical way. Now, obviously, there will be some naysayers, right? There'll be a lot of naysayers, but that's besides the point. I mean, most big organizations have many employees, and that is a very good way to reduce resistance to go for a transformation and also build pressure for the executive management to recognize that a transformation is needed. Usually, it's 5 to 10 people who are talking about a transformation. Everyone else is just doing their own work, right? So that would be the answer to that. And we have tried these things at many different companies, and they work phenomenally well. You're welcome. Any other questions? I'll maybe give it a few more seconds if anyone wants to ask any question. Okay, so I would like to thank you for spending some of your time with me. The link to the article is over here. So you are welcome to go and read this article. It talks about the same things. I have some other recommendations as well that I keep penning on the platform. And along with that, I'm also running a podcast called Spotter. And Spotter is a digital strategy podcast. So I've just started it three months ago. If you search for this word, on any platform that you hear, I have started a digital strategy podcast. Feel free to subscribe to it. Some upcoming guests include a few CEOs who are dealing with these problems, a few academic stalwarts, and also some people from international development, right? I'm very passionate about social change. And so I'm also trying to get some of these people who are working on the ground. Sure, I can give you the link. If you hang on with me, I can give it to you very quickly. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn. Okay, here is the link. Sorry about that delay. Yeah, so this is the link to the chat, to the podcast, and this would be my LinkedIn link. So feel free to send me an invite. I am not a celebrity, so I'm just one of you guys. And if you guys have anything that I can help you guys with, please reach out. I'm happy to help in any shape or form because I'm very passionate about this topic. So, okay, I think you have all the details from me. Thank you for joining my talk. And I hope to see you guys and keep talking to you, right? Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.